My head spun like the room itself was moving. The wedding bells were still ringing in my ears, the white dress clinging to me like a ghost, and the taste of champagne sat bitter on my tongue. I felt weak, too weak for a bride who had just said, "I do." Then out of the blur I saw him. My husband, John, standing in the doorway of our honeymoon suite, his face pale as if he had seen a crime. And he had. Because on the night of my own wedding, I discovered the unthinkable. Grandpa had drugged me. And my husband, my brand new husband, was about to discover the truth. But let me take you back, because for you to understand how we got to that terrifying moment, you need to know who I am and how it all began. My name is Margaret, but everyone calls me Maggie. I'm 78 years old, and I'm speaking to you from a little town in Georgia, USA. Before I begin, let me remind you to subscribe, like, and click the notification button so you never miss another one of my stories. And please, I'd love to know, what part of the country are you watching from right now? Let me know in the comments below. Before we go deeper into this story, I grew up believing weddings were the happiest days in a woman's life. You wear the prettiest dress, you promise forever to the man you love, and you dance until your feet ache. That was the dream. But for me, my wedding day turned into something darker. It became the day I learned a secret that still haunts me. It all started the morning of my wedding. I woke up to the smell of lilies, my favorite flowers, and the sound of my bridesmaids fussing over makeup and curls. My heart pounded with excitement. I was finally going to marry John, the man who had stolen my heart when I was just 19. He was kind, tall, with the bluest eyes I had ever seen. Every girl in town wanted him, but he chose me. At least, that's what I thought. The house was filled with relatives, laughter, and chaos. But among all those cheerful faces, there was one that always unsettled me. Grandpa Henry. He wasn't my real grandfather by blood. He had married my grandmother years before, and though he tried to play the part of family, there was always something off about him. He watched me too closely, spoke too softly, and smiled in a way that made my skin crawl. But it was my wedding day. I told myself I was just being silly. Hours later, the church bells rang, and I walked down the aisle in my white lace dress. The crowd gasped, not because of my beauty, but because of the weight of the moment. My mother cried, my father stood tall, and John looked at me like I was his whole world. The vows were said. The rings were slipped on. The kiss was sealed. Everyone clapped, and my heart felt like it could burst. I thought nothing could ruin that moment. But I was wrong. At the reception, music played and glasses clinked. That's when Grandpa approached me, holding a glass of champagne. His eyes locked on mine as he handed it over. "To the bride," he said in a voice too smooth, too certain. I hesitated for a moment, but out of respect, I raised the glass and took a sip. The first few sips tasted normal, sweet, bubbly. But minutes later, the room began to tilt. My legs turned to water. My laughter died in my throat. I stumbled, clutching the nearest chair, but everyone thought it was the champagne. No one noticed the way Grandpa smirked from across the table. I excused myself and hurried to the bridal suite, my vision blurring, my body heavy. That's when it happened. The door creaked open, and there stood John. He froze, his smile fading, his eyes darting from me to the untouched bottle still in my hand. Then he saw the other glass on the dresser, the one Grandpa had left behind. His face turned cold. "Maggie, what's going on?" he asked, his voice trembling. And right there my world crashed. Because in that moment my husband was about to discover the truth. That Grandpa had drugged me on the very day I became a wife. The night that was supposed to be filled with love had just turned into the beginning of a nightmare. John's eyes burned into me, his face stiff, his fists curling as if holding back anger or fear. I tried to speak, but my tongue felt heavy, thick, like it belonged to someone else. My throat tightened and all I could whisper was, "Something's wrong. John." He rushed forward, holding me up as my knees buckled. "Maggie, what did you drink? Tell me." His voice cracked, desperate. His wedding suit was still perfect, the white rose pinned to his chest fresh, but his heart was unraveling in front of me. I pointed weakly to the glass on the dresser, the one Grandpa had given me. John's eyes followed my trembling finger. His jaw tightened, and in that moment, I saw rage like I had never seen in him before. "That glass," he muttered under his breath, then louder. That man. What the hell did he do? The room felt smaller. My breaths came short, shallow. The laughter and music from the reception downstairs echoed faintly through the floorboards. But up here, it was silence mixed with terror. John paced, running his hands through his hair. This can't be real. Not on today. Not on our wedding day. Then he turned back to me, cupping my face in his hands. Stay with me, Maggie. Stay awake. But my eyelids grew heavy, my body sinking into weakness. John, I whispered. He drugged me. And that's when the door creaked again. Standing in the doorway was Grandpa Henry. His shoulders filled the frame, his shadow stretching across the room. His smile was calm, too calm for a moment like this. He looked at John, then at me, as though nothing unusual was happening. Well, he said in a low voice, looks like the bride is a little too tired for the party. John spun around, fury in his eyes. What did you do to her? Grandpa raised an eyebrow, unfazed. She's fine. Just a little champagne. Maybe too much excitement. I wanted to scream the truth, to tell John everything, but my body betrayed me. My lips barely moved, my voice a breath of air. Don't trust him. But John heard. Oh, he heard. His fists clenched, his chest heaving with rage. If you touched her, if you hurt her, I swear. His voice broke, but his anger didn't. Grandpa chuckled, the sound low and chilling. Careful, boy. You don't want to start your marriage with accusations. People might think the groom can't handle his bride. It was then I realized Grandpa wasn't just trying to hurt me. He wanted to destroy us. He wanted to plant doubt, to poison the very beginning of our marriage. John lifted the glass from the dresser, his hand trembling. He brought it close to his nose, sniffed it, then spat on the floor. This isn't just champagne. You did something. Grandpa's smirk widened, but he didn't deny it. Instead, he stepped closer, lowering his voice so only John could hear, though I caught pieces of it. Some things are better left unsaid. You wouldn't want family secrets spilling out on your wedding night, would you? John stiffened. Family secrets? What did that mean? The tension was so thick I could barely breathe. My vision blurred, but I could still see John take a step forward, his jaw locked tight. Get out, he growled. Get out before I do something I'll regret. For the first time, Grandpa's smile faded. His eyes, dark and sharp, lingered on me before he slowly backed out of the room. The door clicked shut, but his shadow remained in my mind. The moment he left, John dropped the glass, shattering it against the floor. He pulled me into his arms. Maggie, listen to me. I'm going to fix this. I won't let him hurt you. His voice shook, but his grip was strong. You're safe with me. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to close my eyes and trust that love would protect me. But something deep inside whispered otherwise. Because if Grandpa had the nerve to drug me on my wedding day, what else was he capable of? Downstairs, the music grew louder, guests laughing and clinking glasses, unaware of the storm brewing above their heads. To them it was a day of joy. To us, it was the start of a nightmare. Hours passed like a blur. John kept me close, whispering reassurances, but his eyes betrayed him. He was plotting. He was scared. He was angry. And most of all, he was determined. When the dizziness finally began to fade, I sat up, clutching his hand. John, why? Why would he do this to me? He hesitated. Then, in a low voice, he said words that shook me to my core. Because he doesn't want us together. He's hiding something, Maggie. Something about our family. And he knows that if you and I are together, the truth might come out. My heart pounded, confusion swirling in my chest. Family secrets? Hidden truths? None of it made sense. All I knew was that my wedding night had turned into something out of a nightmare, and the man I feared most was in my own family. Just as John was about to explain more, we heard it, a loud knock on the door. 3 sharp bangs that made us both freeze. John stood, his body stiff. He pressed a finger to his lips, signaling me to stay quiet. He walked to the door, his hand hovering over the knob. Who is it? He demanded. Silence. Then another 3 knocks, louder this time. My chest tightened, every part of me screaming not to open that door. But John, brave as he was, twisted the knob. The door creaked open. And there he was again, Grandpa Henry. But this time he wasn't smiling. His face was stone cold, his eyes burning. And in his hand was a letter. He held it out toward John, his voice chillingly calm. "Read this. Then you'll understand why I did what I did." My body froze, my blood turned cold. Because whatever was inside that letter, I knew it was about to change everything. And that was the moment I realized my wedding night wasn't just about love anymore. It was about secrets. Secrets that could tear us apart. John stared at the folded letter in Grandpa's hand as if it were a snake ready to strike. His knuckles turned white, his jaw tensed, but he didn't take it right away. "What is this?" John asked, his voice low but sharp. Grandpa's eyes flicked toward me before returning to John. "Proof," he said. "Proof of why this marriage was never meant to happen." My heart nearly stopped. Proof? Never meant to happen? What did he mean? I sat up straighter, gripping the edge of the bed with all the strength I had left. My voice cracked, but I forced the words out. Don't listen to him, John. He's lying." Grandpa smirked, the corners of his mouth twitching like he enjoyed my fear. "Lying? My dear Maggie, I have no reason to lie. Not today of all days." His tone was too smooth, too confident, like a man who believed he had already won. John's chest rose and fell with deep, uneven breaths. Finally, he snatched the letter from Grandpa's hand, ripping it open with one swift motion. The room was so quiet I swear I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. He unfolded the paper. His eyes scanned the words, and with each line, his face drained of color. His lips parted, but no sound came out. Whatever he was reading, it wasn't good. "What is it?" I whispered. My throat was dry, my voice barely a sound. "John, what does it say?" He didn't answer right away. His hands shook as he lowered the letter. His eyes, once filled with love and warmth, now burned with confusion and disbelief. He turned toward me slowly, almost as if he were afraid of his own words. "Maggie," his voice broke. He swallowed hard. "This says you and we shouldn't even be together. It says," his breath hitched. "It says we're family." My entire body went cold. I shook my head, clutching the sheets tightly. No, that can't be true." "That's not true." Grandpa let out a dark chuckle, the kind that made my stomach twist. "I told you," he said softly. "This marriage was a mistake from the very beginning. And now, John, you see the truth." "No." I shouted, my voice stronger than before. "You're lying. You're making this up." My eyes darted to John, begging him to believe me. "You know me. You know us. Don't let him do this to us." But John's hands still trembled. He looked torn apart, caught between love and the words on that cursed paper. "Maggie, I don't know what to believe right now." Grandpa stepped forward, his presence filling the room like smoke. "You see, boy, she's been kept in the dark. Poor little Maggie doesn't even know her own bloodline. But I do. I've known all along." I felt like the air had been stolen from the room. My wedding dress felt like a cage suffocating me. "You're sick," I spat at Grandpa. "Sick and twisted. You'll say anything to destroy me." For a moment, I saw a flicker of something in Grandpa's eyes, something cold and dangerous. He leaned closer, lowering his voice so only John could hear, though I caught the words anyway. "If you stay with her, the truth will come out. And when it does, it won't just ruin your marriage. It will ruin your lives." John's face hardened. He crumpled the letter in his fist and threw it onto the floor. "Get out," he growled, his voice shaking with rage. "Get out before I drag you out." Grandpa's lips curled into a smile that chilled me to the bone. "Very well. But mark my words, the truth has a way of finding its way out. And when it does, don't say I didn't warn you." He turned and walked out slowly, his footsteps echoing down the hall. The door slammed shut, and silence fell over the room. Only then did I realize tears were streaming down my face. I didn't even feel them fall. My hands shook as I reached for John. "Please don't believe him. Please." John sat on the edge of the bed, his head in his hands. "Maggie, I love you. God, I love you. But that letter." He stopped himself, pressing his fists against his temples. "I don't know what to think." I crawled closer, clutching his arm. "Then trust me. Not him. Me." He looked at me, his eyes wet, his jaw tight. For a moment, I thought he might pull me into his arms, hold me, promise me we'd get through this. But instead he stood, pacing the floor. I need answers. I need to know the truth. And then he said the words that made my blood run cold. I'm going to him. I'm going to make him tell me everything. No, I cried, grabbing his sleeve. John, don't. That's what he wants. He wants to trap you. But John shook me off gently, his face set like stone. I can't just sit here, Maggie. If he's lying, I'll prove it. If he's telling the truth. He stopped, his throat tightening. Then we'll deal with it. Together. He kissed my forehead quickly, too quickly, then pulled away and headed for the door. I scrambled after him, but my body was still weak, still heavy from whatever Grandpa had given me. My legs buckled and I collapsed back onto the bed. John, don't go. But he didn't turn back. The door slammed shut, and I was left alone in the silence, shaking with fear. I pressed my hand to my chest, my heart racing so fast it hurt. Deep inside, I knew one thing for certain. If John went to Grandpa tonight, something terrible was going to happen. And I was right. Because an hour later, the sound of raised voices echoed through the walls. John shouting, Grandpa's low growl. Then suddenly a loud crash. And silence. My blood froze. Something had happened. Something bad. The crash echoed through the old house like thunder. I shot upright, my breath caught in my throat. My hands clutched the sheets so tight my knuckles turned white. For a moment everything went still. Too still. Then came the sound of footsteps. Fast, heavy, uneven, pounding down the hallway. My heart thumped in time with them. John, I called out, my voice trembling. No answer. I forced myself out of bed, my legs shaking beneath the weight of the gown that now felt more like chains than silk. Every step toward the door felt like I was wading through water. The dizziness hadn't fully left me, but fear was stronger than weakness. I pulled the door open and peered into the hall. The golden light from the chandeliers downstairs glowed faintly, but up here, shadows stretched long across the wooden floor. John, I whispered again, louder this time. That's when I saw him. John staggered toward me, his shirt torn at the shoulder, his lips split, blood trickling down his chin. His chest rose and fell in ragged breaths. His eyes were wild, filled with a fury I had never seen before. John, I cried, rushing to him. But he held up his hand, stopping me. Stay back, Maggie, he panted. What happened? What did he do? His fists clenched at his sides. He told me things, Maggie. Things about your family, about mine. Things that don't make sense, but... He shook his head violently like he was trying to rid his mind of the words. But they sounded too real. I gripped his arm anyway, ignoring his warning. He's lying. He's twisting everything. Please, you have to believe me. John's jaw tightened. His silence scared me more than any words could. Then I noticed something, his other hand. He was clutching something crumpled and torn. Another letter. What is that? I asked. He hesitated, then slowly opened his fist. The paper was ripped at the edges, stained with drops of blood. His or Grandpa's, I couldn't tell. It's another letter, he said, his voice hoarse. He forced it into my hand before. He trailed off, glancing down the hall as if expecting Grandpa to appear from the shadows. Before the fight. A chill ran through me. What does it say? John unfolded the paper with shaking fingers. His eyes darted back and forth, reading quickly. His lips pressed into a thin line, his whole body trembling. John, I whispered. Tell me. His head lifted slowly, his face pale as snow. His voice cracked when he finally spoke. It says you're not who you think you are, Maggie. I froze. What? It says you're not your father's daughter. His voice dropped lower. It says Henry, Grandpa, is your real father. The world tilted beneath me. My breath left my lungs. I staggered back, clutching my chest. No, that's not true. That can't be true. John's eyes filled with pain. Maggie, I don't want to believe it. I don't. But the way he said it, like he's been waiting to tell us. Tears streamed down my face hot and fast. He's lying. He's lying because he hates me. Because he wants to destroy me. John dropped the letter to the floor and grabbed my face in his hands. Look at me. I love you, Maggie. Nothing can change that. Not him, not these letters, nothing. Do you hear me? But even as he said it, I saw doubt flicker in his eyes. A doubt Henry had planted like poison. Before I could answer, the hallway lights flickered once. Then went out, plunging us into darkness. I gasped and clung to John. What's happening? His grip tightened around me. He's here, John muttered. I know he's here. From the far end of the hall came a sound, a slow, deliberate clap. 1, 2, 3. Then Henry's voice, deep and cold. You can't run from blood. Not tonight. Not ever. My body shook, my heart threatening to rip out of my chest. John held me close, but I could feel his own fear through the tremor of his hands. Henry's shadow stretched along the wall as he stepped forward, calm, steady, like a predator stalking prey. And in that instant I knew. This night wasn't just about secrets anymore. It was about survival. The hallway was swallowed in darkness, except for the faint moonlight slipping through a small window at the far end. John pulled me close, his arm shielding me, while Grandpa's slow footsteps echoed toward us. Clap, clap, clap. Each sound tightened the fear in my chest until I could barely breathe. His voice followed, calm and mocking, like he was enjoying every second of our terror. You see now, don't you? Henry said, his tone dripping with satisfaction. The truth cannot be hidden forever. I tried to warn you, Maggie, but you wanted fairy tales and happily ever afters. Stay away from her, John shouted, his voice strong, though his grip on me trembled. Henry's silhouette grew clearer in the dim light. His face was half hidden in shadow, but I could still see that twisted smile. He moved with no rush, like a man certain he had already won. I drugged her, Henry said plainly, his voice echoing down the hall. And I'd do it again, because you two don't belong together. You're living a lie. My heart pounded in my ears. You're lying, I screamed, my voice cracking with fury and fear. You're sick, Henry. I'll never believe you. But he only chuckled, the sound crawling under my skin. Oh, Maggie, the lies aren't mine. They belong to your parents. To your grandmother. They kept you blind all your life. But I've always known the truth. John stepped forward, shielding me with his body. If you touch her again, if you so much as breathe near her, I'll end this right here. For a moment, Henry stopped. His eyes glinted in the moonlight, studying John. Then, almost amused, he tilted his head. Bold words, boy. But you don't scare me. John's fists clenched, but Henry raised his hand, holding up a small object. The moonlight caught it, something metallic. A key. You want the truth? Henry said, dangling it like bait. It's locked away. In a chest. In the attic. All the proof is there. Letters. Pictures. Documents. If you dare to know, come and find it. I shook my head violently. Don't listen to him, John. It's another trap. But John's eyes flickered with conflict. Curiosity. Doubt. Henry saw it too. He smirked and slowly backed away, retreating into the shadows. When you're ready, you'll come. You both will. The truth has a way of calling out. His footsteps faded until silence returned. I collapsed against John, trembling. Please don't go after him. Please. John held me tight, but his eyes remained fixed on the dark end of the hallway where Henry had disappeared. His jaw was set, his mind already made up. I have to, he whispered. If there's even a chance he's telling the truth, I need to know. I can't build our life on lies, Maggie. Tears blurred my vision. But what if it's a trap? What if he hurts you again? He cupped my face gently, his thumb brushing my tears. Then I'll fight. For you. For us. And with those words I knew nothing I said would stop him. The seed of doubt Henry planted had taken root. John would go after the truth, no matter the cost. That night, I lay awake in the bridal suite, staring at the ceiling, every creak of the old house making my skin crawl. Downstairs, the guests had left, the laughter silenced, the flowers wilting in their vases. But inside these walls, the nightmare had only begun. Sometime near dawn, John slipped quietly from the bed. I pretended to sleep, but my heart thudded with fear. I knew exactly where he was going. The attic. And with Henry waiting in the shadows, I feared that when John opened that chest, it wouldn't just reveal secrets. It might destroy us both. The wooden stairs groaned under John's weight as he climbed toward the attic. I followed a few steps behind, my bare feet trembling on the cold boards. I couldn't let him face Henry alone, not after everything that had happened. "John, please," I whispered, clutching the railing as though it might steady my shaking body. "This isn't safe. We should leave. We should run away before he does something worse." But John didn't stop. His shoulders were stiff, his fists clenched at his sides. "If we run, Maggie, he'll never stop haunting us. He'll always come back. The only way to end this is to face it." The attic door creaked open with a sound that sent chills through me. Dust and cobwebs hung thick in the air, the smell of old wood and forgotten years heavy around us. The moonlight slipped through a cracked window, casting long shadows across trunks and boxes stacked like silent sentries. And there, in the center of the room, was the chest. It was old, iron-bound, and locked with a heavy padlock. The same chest Henry had spoken about. John stepped forward, holding the key Henry had dropped earlier. He turned it in his hand, his jaw tight. "This is it," he muttered. I reached out, grabbing his arm. "Don't. What if it's another trick?" He looked at me, his blue eyes soft for a moment. "Maggie, whatever is inside here, it's the truth. And I need to know the truth if I'm going to protect you." Before I could answer, a sound came from the corner of the attic. Creak. We both froze. Slowly, John turned his head toward the sound. My breath caught in my throat. From the shadows stepped Henry. His figure loomed, half hidden by the dim light. His hands were clasped behind his back, and his face wore that same calm, mocking smile. "I knew you'd come," he said softly. "Curiosity is a dangerous thing. But love mixed with curiosity." He chuckled. "That's a recipe for disaster." John positioned himself between me and Henry, his body tense. "If you wanted us to find this chest, then tell me what's inside. Tell me now." Henry shook his head slowly. "No. Some truths must be seen with your own eyes. Some lies must be peeled away layer by layer." He stepped closer, his boots crunching against the dust. "But be warned, once you open it, there's no going back. Everything you believe about your family, your love, your life, it will all shatter." John tightened his grip on the key, determination burning in his eyes. "Then let it shatter. I'd rather live in pain than in lies." My heart thudded painfully. "John, please, don't let him control you," I cried. Henry's smile widened. "Control? Oh, my dear, I don't need to control him. He's already chosen his path." John dropped to his knees before the chest. The key slid into the lock with a sharp click. My pulse raced so fast I thought I might faint. The lock fell open. He lifted the lid slowly, the rusty hinges screeching like a scream in the silent attic. Inside were stacks of papers, old photographs, and leather-bound journals. Dust rose in a thick cloud, choking the air. John reached inside and pulled out the first paper. His eyes scanned it quickly, his face twisting in shock. "What is it?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. His lips trembled as he read aloud. "It's a birth certificate." He looked at me, his eyes wide with horror. "Maggie, it has your name on it. But the father listed, it's Henry." The room spun. My knees gave way and I collapsed against the wall. No, it's not true. It's forged. He's lying." Henry stepped forward, his shadow looming over me. "Lies? Oh, Maggie. Lies are what your parents fed you all your life. I'm the only one who ever wanted you to know the truth." Tears blurred my vision. My stomach churned, bile rising in my throat. "You're a monster," I whispered. "A monster." John dropped the paper back into the chest and grabbed more documents, flipping through them in desperation. Letters, photographs, journal entries, each one worse than the last. The evidence was piling up, piece by horrifying piece. "Maggie," John's voice broke. He dropped the papers, his hands trembling. "What if it's true? What if he's been right all along?" My body shook with violent sobs. "No. Don't believe him. Please, John, don't let him destroy us." But before John could answer, Henry moved closer. His face was inches from mine, his eyes dark and gleaming. "You belong to me, Maggie," he whispered. "And nothing, no man, no marriage, can change that." John lunged at him, fury exploding in his eyes. He slammed Henry against the wall, his fist raised. "If you ever touch her again, I swear I'll kill you." Henry only smiled, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. "Then do it, boy. Show her who you really are." For a heartbeat, the attic was a storm of rage, fear, and secrets too heavy to bear. And in that moment I realized we weren't just fighting for our love anymore. We were fighting for our very souls. John's fist hovered inches from Henry's face. His chest rose and fell like a raging storm, sweat glistening on his temple. For one terrifying second, I thought he was going to do it. And everything with a single punch that could crush bone. But then he froze. His fist shook, trembling with the weight of rage and restraint. With a roar, John shoved Henry away instead of striking him. Henry stumbled, laughing as if the whole thing were some cruel game. "Ah, restraint," Henry sneered, wiping the blood from his lip with the back of his hand. "Just like your father. Weak. Afraid of the truth. Don't you dare compare me to you." John spat, his voice raw. Henry chuckled low, stepping forward again as if nothing had happened. "You don't even know who you are, boy. You think you're so noble, so righteous. But your family is filled with rot. And now you've married into mine. The rot meets the rot." I couldn't take it anymore. I stepped forward, my whole body trembling, but my voice came out stronger than I felt. "Stop it. Just stop. You've ruined enough already. You've poisoned this day, this marriage, my whole life. What more do you want from me?" Henry turned slowly, his dark eyes meeting mine. And then, for the first time, his smirk faded. His face hardened, almost solemn. "What do I want?" he said quietly, dangerously. "I want what was stolen from me. I want what should have been mine from the very beginning." John stepped protectively in front of me, his arm outstretched. "You're not taking anything, Henry. Not now. Not ever." Henry's lips curled again into that horrible smile. "We'll see." He turned his gaze back to the chest, as if it were a prize waiting for him. He crouched down, his fingers brushing over the documents like a man caressing treasure. "Do you see these? These papers are not just words. They're your chains, Maggie. Proof that you are mine whether you like it or not." Tears stung my eyes, but I refused to let him see me break. "I'll never be yours," I hissed. Henry's eyes narrowed, but before he could respond, John lunged forward, slamming the chest shut with a loud crack. The dust rose like smoke between them. "You're not poisoning her mind anymore," John said firmly. He grabbed the chest by its rusted handle and began dragging it toward the attic stairs. Henry's voice darkened, his calm mask cracking for the first time. "Don't you dare take that chest." John ignored him, his muscles straining as he pulled the heavy box across the floorboards. I stood frozen, my breath caught, watching the two men, one fueled by love, the other by obsession, locked in a silent war. Henry's patience snapped. With a sudden burst of rage, he grabbed a broken wooden beam from the corner and swung it down toward John's back. "John!" I screamed. John barely dodged, the beam splintering against the floor with a deafening crack. Shards of wood flew across the attic. Henry raised it again, his face twisted with fury. John turned, grabbing Henry's wrist mid-swing. The two struggled, their bodies crashing into the old walls, shaking the entire attic. Dust and cobwebs rained from the ceiling, the house itself groaning under the violence. I scrambled forward, my hands shaking, my mind racing. I had to do something. Anything. My eyes darted to the chest, half dragged to the stairs. Papers had spilled out, fluttering across the floor like cursed leaves. Among them, one caught my eye. It was different, yellowed with age, edges burned, as though someone had tried to destroy it but failed. I picked it up with trembling fingers, my eyes racing over the faded ink. My heart stopped. "John!" I cried out over the sound of their struggle. "You have to see this." But before I could finish, Henry's eyes locked onto me. His face twisted with rage when he saw the paper in my hand. "No!" he roared, breaking free from John's grip. "Not that one." He lunged toward me, his arms outstretched, his shadow swallowing me whole. And in that moment I knew, whatever I was holding wasn't just another piece of the puzzle. It was the secret Henry feared most. Henry's footsteps thundered toward me, his face contorted with rage like a man who had just lost control of the game he'd been winning. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the yellowed paper, but I clutched it tighter against my chest. "Give it to me," Henry roared, his arms stretching out like claws. Before he could reach me, John tackled him from the side, slamming him hard against the attic wall. The whole house seemed to shudder with the impact. Henry groaned but fought back, his elbow jamming into John's ribs. John grunted, but he didn't let go. "Run, Maggie," John shouted through clenched teeth. "Run with it." But my legs wouldn't move. My eyes were glued to the paper in my hand. I could barely make out the faded handwriting in the dim moonlight, but what I read made my stomach twist. It wasn't just a letter. It was a confession. My sins must stay buried. If the girl ever learns the truth, it will destroy us all. The rest of the words blurred through my tears, but one phrase stood out, carved into my mind forever. She must never know that Henry is not her father, but her jailer. I gasped, my hand flying to my mouth. "John, it says he's not my father." John froze, his fist inches from Henry's face. He turned toward me, disbelief and hope flashing in his eyes. "What?" Henry's roar shook the attic. With an animal-like strength, he shoved John off and lunged at me again. His hand clamped down on my wrist, squeezing so tight I cried out in pain. The paper nearly slipped from my grasp. "You shouldn't have read that," Henry hissed, his spit hitting my cheek. "You weren't supposed to see it." "Let her go," John bellowed, charging forward. He yanked Henry back with all his strength, the two of them crashing into the chest again. It toppled over, spilling more papers, more secrets across the attic floor. I staggered back, clutching the letter against my chest, my body trembling. My mind spun with questions. If Henry wasn't my father, then who was he? And why had he tried so hard to convince me otherwise? The fight grew brutal. John and Henry slammed each other into beams, fists flying, grunts filling the air. The attic groaned under their weight, as if the old house itself couldn't bear the violence any longer. Then I saw it, an iron candle holder lying on the floor, half buried under papers. My pulse raced. I lunged for it, my hands gripping the cold metal. "John!" I screamed, running forward. Henry had pinned John down, his hands around his throat. John's face was turning red, his breath shallow and desperate. Without thinking, I swung the candle holder with every ounce of strength I had left. It smashed against Henry's back with a sickening thud. He howled, collapsing to the side. John gasped for air, clutching his throat, while I stood over Henry, shaking, the candle holder still in my hands. For a moment, everything went silent except for our ragged breathing. John crawled to me, pulling me into his arms. "Maggie, you saved me." But Henry wasn't finished. His laughter rose low at first, then louder, echoing through the attic like something unholy. He pushed himself up slowly, blood dripping from his mouth, his eyes burning with madness. "You think you've won?" he spat, his voice raspy but full of venom. "This is only the beginning. That paper won't save you. It'll damn you. Because the truth you hold," he pointed at the letter in my trembling hand, "is worse than any lie I could ever tell." The air turned cold. My body stiffened, the paper heavy in my grip. "What do you mean?" I whispered. Henry's grin widened, blood staining his teeth. "Read the rest, Maggie. Read it aloud. Let him hear. Let him know exactly what kind of woman he's married." John stiffened beside me. His eyes darted to the paper, then back to me. "Don't," he said softly, fear flickering in his voice. "Not now. Not tonight." But it was too late. My eyes had already fallen to the next line. My lips trembled as the words slipped out, breaking the fragile air between us. "She must never know that her true blood ties her to the man she now calls husband." My knees buckled. The letter slipped from my fingers and fluttered to the floor like a dead bird. John's face drained of color. He staggered back, shaking his head violently. No, that's not possible. That can't be true." Henry's laughter filled the attic, cruel and triumphant. And as the sound echoed through the walls, I realized the nightmare had only just begun. The attic spun around me. My knees hit the wooden floor as Henry's words clawed at my mind. My chest rose and fell so fast it felt like I couldn't breathe. John was pacing, his hands pulling at his hair, his face pale as death. "It's a lie," he muttered, shaking his head over and over. "It has to be a lie." He's twisting everything like he always does. But Henry. Oh, Henry was savoring every second. He leaned against the beam, blood still dripping from the corner of his mouth, but his grin never wavered. Look at her, he crooned, pointing toward me. She knows it's true. That paper doesn't lie. You two are bound by blood. Husband and wife, but also something much darker. Shut up. John roared, his voice cracking like a whip. He lunged again, but this time I grabbed his arm, stopping him. My whole body shook. John, wait, I whispered. We need proof. We need to know for sure. Henry tilted his head, his eyes glinting with victory. Ah, smart girl. Always knew you had it in you. I turned back to the letter on the floor. My fingers felt like stone as I picked it up again, forcing myself to keep reading. The ink was smudged, the edges burned, but the words were still legible enough to destroy me. She belongs to him. She is of his line, bound in secret, and the child they bear will seal the curse forever. I dropped the paper as if it burned me. My stomach churned so violently I thought I might vomit. John staggered back, shaking his head. No. No, no, no. I can't, this can't. His voice broke into silence. Henry's laugh cut through the air like a knife. You see now? You thought you were rescuing her. You thought you were saving her. But all along, you were just falling deeper into the trap fate set for you. Tears blurred my vision. My mind screamed that it wasn't true, that this had to be some sick manipulation. But deep down, in the pit of my soul, a fear was blooming. What if Henry was right? The thought made my heart pound so loudly I could barely hear anything else. John turned to me, his eyes red, desperate. Maggie, do you believe him? Do you think we're? He couldn't even finish the sentence. I don't know. I whispered, my voice barely audible. I don't know what to believe anymore. Henry pushed himself off the beam, limping toward us slowly, like a predator who knew his prey had no escape. It doesn't matter if you believe it. The curse doesn't care. The blood doesn't care. You two have already sealed it. You said I do, didn't you, Maggie? You already made the vow. John stood in front of me again, his fists clenched, but this time there was no anger in his stance, only fear. Stay back, he warned Henry, though his voice shook. Henry smirked, leaning close enough that his breath brushed John's face. Or what? You'll kill me? Even if you did, the truth would still rot her soul. There's no running from it. I couldn't take it anymore. I bolted for the attic door, nearly tripping over the scattered papers. My hands fumbled with the handle, but when I yanked it open, a cold gust of wind blew through, carrying with it the sound of someone whispering. It wasn't Henry. It wasn't John. It was a woman's voice. Soft, sad. And it came from the shadows of the attic itself. Margaret, it whispered, my name stretching through the air like a ghostly song. I froze. My blood ran cold. John spun around, eyes wide. Even Henry stopped smiling. The voice came again, louder this time. Margaret, my daughter. I clutched the doorframe for balance, my heart pounding against my ribs so hard I thought it would break through. Because I knew that voice. I hadn't heard it since I was a little girl. It was my mother's. The moment I heard her voice, my body went numb. My fingers dug into the doorframe, splinters pricking my skin, but I couldn't move. Margaret. The voice echoed again, soft but heavy, like it carried all the pain in the world. John whispered, Maggie, who is that? Tears welled in my eyes as my lips trembled. It's my mother. Henry's grin faltered. For the first time that night, his arrogance slipped. His eyes darted across the attic shadows, his jaw tightening. No, she can't, she's gone. But the voice didn't care what Henry believed. It grew louder, circling the room, wrapping itself around me like a cold embrace. My daughter, you must listen. The truth is not what he tells you. John stepped closer to me, gripping my shoulders, grounding me. You're hearing her? I nodded slowly, still staring into the darkness. I know that voice. I know it. Suddenly, the attic lantern flickered violently, then went out completely, plunging us into darkness. I screamed, clutching John's arm. He held me tight. Henry's breathing was ragged in the shadows, and then his voice thundered. Leave her alone. She's mine. The room exploded with wind, papers flying everywhere. the old beams groaning as if the house itself was alive. And then through the swirling chaos her form appeared. A pale, shimmering figure of a woman, her hair flowing as if underwater, her eyes sad but burning with truth. My mother! I gasped, falling to my knees. Mama! The ghostly figure floated closer, her voice trembling. Yes, my child. I tried to protect you, but Henry stole me away before I could. Her eyes shifted to him, full of rage. He twisted everything. Lied about your blood. Lied about your curse. Henry roared, lunging toward her, but the moment he reached out, his hand passed through her, and he fell to the floor, screaming as though her very presence burned him. My mother turned back to me, her ghostly hand brushing against my cheek, cold but tender. You are not bound to him. You are not cursed. You are free, my Margaret. My chest heaved with sobs, relief crashing over me like waves. Then John isn't. No, she said firmly, her eyes locking with mine. John is not your blood. He is your choice. Do not let Henry's lies chain you. Henry let out an unholy scream, pounding the floorboards with his fists. Lies. All of it lies. She's tricking you. But John pulled me into his arms, holding me as though I might vanish. His voice cracked as he whispered. Maggie, did you hear that? You and me were free. It's not true. I clung to him, sobbing, nodding. For the first time in years, hope burned inside me. But Henry wasn't finished. He staggered to his feet, his face twisted with madness, his body trembling as if something inside him was tearing him apart. You think you've won? He rasped, his eyes bloodshot. No spirit can change the truth. If she leaves me, if she defies me, then none of us will leave this house alive. Suddenly, the attic floorboards cracked beneath him. Splinters shot into the air. Henry screamed as the wood collapsed, a gaping hole opening beneath his feet. John! I cried, clutching him tighter. Henry's arms flailed as he tried to hold on to something, but his hands found nothing but air. With one last scream that echoed through every corner of the house, he fell into the darkness below. Silence followed. Only the sound of my own sobs filled the attic. My mother's ghost hovered closer, her form flickering like a fading candle. She smiled sadly. It is done. You are free. I reached for her, but my hands passed through. Don't leave me, Mama. Please. Her eyes softened. I never left you, Margaret. I've been with you all along. Be strong. Live. Love. Do not waste the freedom you fought for. And with that, she vanished, the attic suddenly still and quiet. I collapsed into John's arms, my body shaking, my heart heavy but alive. He kissed my forehead, whispering, It's over, Maggie. It's really over. But deep inside me, I couldn't help but wonder, was it truly over? Or had Henry's curse only just begun? For days after that night, I couldn't step foot in the attic. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Henry's face, the madness in his eyes as he screamed, the way the floor swallowed him into the dark. His voice still rang in my ears, echoing like a curse that refused to die. John tried to comfort me. He never left my side, not even for a moment. He held me when I shook in my sleep, whispered soft reassurances when the nightmares clawed at me, and promised me that Henry was gone for good. But in my heart I wasn't so sure. The house was quieter, yes. The oppressive weight that used to hang in the halls seemed lighter, almost breathable. But sometimes at night, when the wind rattled the windows, I swore I still heard him. A faint laugh in the distance. A whisper in the walls. One evening, John suggested we leave the house entirely. Maggie, he said gently, brushing my hair back. We don't owe this place anything. Let's go start somewhere new. Just you and me. I wanted that. More than anything, I wanted to run and never look back. But something rooted me to the land. This was my family's home, I whispered. It holds the truth. It holds her. I hadn't stopped thinking about my mother's ghost. Her voice, her touch, the way she set me free from Henry's lies. If I left, would I ever hear her again? Would I lose that last connection to her? So we stayed. And for a while, life became almost normal. We laughed again. We worked the farm. We shared quiet evenings where the horrors of the past felt like nothing more than a bad dream. But it never lasted long. One night, as John and I sat on the porch watching the fireflies, we heard it. A knock. Not on the door. Not on the walls. From the attic. 3 slow, heavy knocks. Boom. 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 I froze, my glass of water slipping from my hand and shattering on the floor. John jumped to his feet, his face pale in the moonlight. "No," he whispered. "It can't be." The knocks came again, louder this time, shaking the rafters. Boom. 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 And then a voice. Not Henry's. Not my mother's. This one was deeper, older, filled with something far more sinister. "You are not finished, Margaret." The words seeped through the night air like poison, and my blood turned to ice. I grabbed John's arm, trembling. "Did you hear that?" His face was grim, his jaw tight. "Yes. I heard it." We looked at each other, and I knew in that moment, Henry's fall wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. The night after the knocks, sleep became a stranger to me. I lay in bed beside John, staring at the ceiling, every muscle in my body tense. The house creaked and groaned like an old ship at sea, and each sound sent a fresh wave of fear crawling through me. John held my hand, his thumb rubbing slow circles against my skin. "We'll figure this out," he whispered, though his voice betrayed the same fear I felt. But I couldn't answer. My mind replayed the voice over and over. "You are not finished, Margaret." Those words didn't just echo, they clung to me, like a brand I couldn't scrub off. By morning, I was convinced we had to go back to the attic. John resisted at first. "Makye, no. We can board it up. Never open it again." But I shook my head firmly. If I ignore it, it won't stop. Whatever that voice is, it won't leave us alone until we face it. So with lanterns in hand, we climbed the narrow steps once more. The air grew colder the higher we went, and by the time we reached the attic door, my breath was visible in the dim light. The door creaked open, and the room was exactly as we had left it. The broken floor where Henry had fallen, the scattered papers, the dust swirling in the lantern's glow. But there was something new. A book. It sat neatly on the floorboards, as if someone had placed it there on purpose. Its cover was dark leather, cracked with age, the edges frayed. Strange markings were etched into it, symbols I didn't recognize. I knelt slowly, my fingers trembling as I reached for it. John put a hand on my shoulder. "Careful." The moment I touched it, the lanterns flickered. And then the whisper came again. "You opened the door, child, now you must step through." The attic plunged into darkness. I screamed, clutching the book to my chest. John grabbed me, pulling me back, but the floorboards shook violently beneath us. The hole where Henry had fallen began to widen, splitting like a wound tearing open. And from the darkness below came the sound of footsteps. Not one pair. Many. Heavy, dragging, unnatural. John pulled me toward the door, but it slammed shut with a force that rattled the whole attic. We were trapped. The whispers grew louder, overlapping voices that spoke in tongues I couldn't understand, filling my head until I thought it would burst. And then through the chaos, one voice cut clear. "Not Henry. Not my mother. Deeper. Older. The bloodline is not yours alone, Margaret. He was only the beginning. You belong to us." The floor cracked wider, and from the void below, pale hands began reaching upward. The pale hands clawed at the broken boards, stretching toward me with long skeletal fingers. Their nails scratched the wood, leaving deep grooves as the sound cut into my ears like knives. I froze, the book pressed tightly against my chest. My legs felt like stone, my breath shallow. John grabbed my arm, pulling with all his strength. "Maggie, move." We stumbled back, but the hands kept multiplying. First 5, then 10, then dozens. All reaching, all writhing like something alive beneath the floor. One of them brushed my ankle. It was ice cold. I screamed, kicking free, but the chill lingered in my skin, spreading up my leg like frostbite. John swung the lantern down at the hole, the flame flaring as the oil splattered. For a moment, the firelight revealed them fully. They weren't just hands. They were people. Or what used to be people. Gaunt faces stared up from the darkness, their eyes hollow sockets, their mouths stretched wide in silent screams. They clawed, desperate, furious, trapped in a pit of endless night. John's voice cracked. "What the hell is this?" The whispers rose into a roar. "The bloodline, the bloodline, the bloodline." The book in my hands grew hot, burning against my skin. I wanted to drop it, but it was as if it clung to me, pulling my fingers tighter around it. My vision blurred, and in my mind I saw flashes, memories that weren't mine. A woman in chains crying. A man chanting over a circle drawn in blood. Children standing in a line, their eyes glassy, their bodies swaying. I gasped, stumbling backward. John, I think my family did this. I think they fed them. The attic shook harder, dust falling from the rafters like rain. The gaping hole widened further, and one of the creatures finally managed to pull its torso out. Its skin was gray, its ribs showing, its head jerking unnaturally as it dragged itself toward me. John picked up a fallen beam and swung with all his might. The creature hissed, falling back into the pit. But more were climbing. I clutched the book tighter, screaming above the chaos. What do you want from me? And then every voice stopped. The attic went dead silent. The creatures froze. And one voice, deeper than all the rest, spoke alone. We want you to finish what he started. The attic floor gave way, and John and I plummeted into the darkness. The fall felt endless. My scream tore through the black, but no sound came back to me, only silence, thick and suffocating. My body twisted in the void. The book burning against my chest like a brand. I clung to it because I couldn't let go, even if I wanted to. Then impact. But not the kind I expected. Instead of shattering bones on hard ground, I landed on something soft. Something moving. I opened my eyes and wished I hadn't. John and I had landed on a mass of bodies. Not dead, not alive, something in between. Their flesh was cold and rubbery, their arms twitching, their heads jerking as if on broken strings. They groaned softly, like a choir of the damned, and shifted beneath our weight. John scrambled to his feet, grabbing my hand and yanking me up before the bodies could drag us under. We need to move, he shouted, his voice echoing in the cavernous dark. The pit was larger than I could have imagined. The walls dripped with black slime, and strange symbols glowed faintly in the stone. And all around us, they writhed. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. I clutched John's arm, shaking. Where are we? Before he could answer, the whispers rose again. Not from above this time, from all around us. The creatures' mouths opened in unison, their hollow eyes staring straight at me. Bloodline, bloodline, bloodline. The book pulsed, a deep red light seeping through its cracks. My head throbbed with pain. Visions slamming into me one after another. A man in robes, standing in this very pit. My ancestor. His face eerily similar to mine. He lifted the same book I held now and shouted words I couldn't understand. And the pit answered him, with hands reaching, with voices crying, with power flooding into him. I staggered back, clutching my skull. They used this place as a ritual ground. My family made this pit. John grabbed my shoulders, forcing me to look at him. His face was pale, but his voice was steady. Then you can end it, Maggie. You're not like them. You're not your grandfather. You can break it. But even as he said it, the deepest voice thundered again, shaking the ground beneath us. No, she will continue it. The ground split open wider, and from the chasm rose a figure taller than any man I'd ever seen. His skin was blackened like burned wood, his eyes glowing red. Chains hung from his wrists and ankles, dragging against the stone as he stepped forward. Every creature in the pit bowed to him. And then he looked straight at me. Margaret, daughter of our blood, it is time. The figure towered over me, the chains dragging and clanging with each step, sparks flying when they scraped the stone. His presence swallowed the pit, making the thousands of whispering voices fall silent. Only his voice remained. You cannot run from blood, Margaret. It binds you. It defines you. You are ours. My knees weakened beneath me, the book glowing hotter in my hands, searing my skin. It felt alive, as if it was breathing, as if it wanted me to open it and read what was inside. Part of me almost obeyed. Almost. But then I saw John. His face, his hands, the way he was shaking, but still holding me up, still refusing to let me fall. His voice cut through the suffocating air. You are not them, Maggie. You are you. You choose who you are. The giant figure tilted his head, the glow of his eyes flaring brighter. He is weak. Cast him aside. Take the power. Become what you were born to be. The book pulsed again, and in my mind, I saw visions. me standing where the giant stood, me commanding the pit, me filled with power no human should ever hold. I felt the temptation crawl into me like fire in my veins. For a moment I wanted it. But then, another vision came. A memory. My wedding day. My white dress. The drugged drink Grandpa handed me, the lies, the way he tried to trap me in chains just like these. I remembered the terror of almost losing myself. I remembered John breaking down that door, saving me, choosing me. And I knew, this was the same battle all over again. I gritted my teeth and screamed, "I am not yours." The book flared violently, shaking in my hands. The creatures in the pit shrieked, covering their faces. The giant roared, lifting a chained hand to strike me down. But before he could, I hurled the book into the chasm. The moment it left my hands, a blinding light erupted from the pit. The creatures wailed, thrashing as the light consumed them, burning away the shadows. The giant bellowed in fury, his chains rattling as he tried to hold on. But the light dragged him down, pulling him back into the abyss. "No!" he roared, his voice echoing through the stone until it faded into silence. The ground shook one final time, and then, everything stilled. The pit was empty. The whispers were gone. Only John and I remained, standing on solid stone, shaking, clutching each other as if we would never let go again. I buried my face in his chest and sobbed, the relief crashing over me. He kissed the top of my head, whispering, "It's over. You ended it, Maggie. It's over." But deep inside, I knew the truth. Evil never truly dies. It hides. It waits. And it passes through blood. I survived my wedding night. I survived the attic. I survived the pit. But the lesson I carry with me, and the one I want you listening to never forget, is this: your past does not own you. Your family's sins do not have to define you. You always have a choice. Always. So my dear friends, that is my story. The day I said I do, Grandpa drugged me. And my husband discovered the truth. I am Margaret, 78 years old, speaking to you from the quiet hills of North Carolina. Thank you for walking this dark road with me. Now tell me, where are you watching from? I would love to know. And if you want to hear more stories like mine, don't forget to subscribe, like, and click the notification button so you never miss what's coming next. 'Cause believe me, there are always more stories. Always.